Neuroplasticity says your brain and life are not fixed, even in midlife. And that's exactly why those so-called bad habits can change when you understand how thought, focus, and repetition literally reshape your wiring. Welcome to Rooted Insights, a podcast for women in their second season of life who've spent years caring for everyone else. Kids, partners, work, households, holding it all together while quietly putting your own needs on the back burner. If you now find yourself wondering, what's next for me? What do I really want from my life now? And how do I start prioritizing myself without dropping everything else? You're in the right place. Hi, I'm Dr. Kelley, a health and well-being specialist and mind-body expert. And here we blend grounded, science-informed practices into everyday life so we can better support our hardworking nervous systems, emotional health, and authentic selves in this powerful mid-season of life. Today, we're talking about neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to change, and why it truly is not too late to shift unhelpful habits, thought patterns, and emotional reflexes, even if you've been repeating them for decades. We'll explore what science tells us about how your brain and body keep adapting and how thought, focus, attitude, and practice shape that wiring in midlife. So take a slow breath in and a gentle breath out. Whatever habits or patterns you're thinking of right now, hold this simple sentence in the back of your mind today. My brain is still listening and malleable. Nothing is fixed. I want to start with a story I hear in different forms all the time. Picture a woman in her early 50s. She carries a lot: work, home, aging parents, grown or nearly grown kids, emotional support for friends, and constant changes. Over the years, she's begun telling herself, I'm just someone who stress eats, or I'm just not a consistent person, or I always procrastinate. I've been like that for as long as I can remember. Every January, she sets big goals: move more, eat better, sleep earlier, stop scrolling. But by late February, she feels like she's failed again. The story becomes, maybe this is just who I am now. Maybe my brain is too old to change. At the same time, she's noticing real shifts: more forgetfulness, trouble focusing, more anxiety at night. She worries, is this just menopause or decline? If you recognize yourself here, I want you to hear this clearly. Yes, midlife brings real brain and body changes. Estrogen and other hormones influence memory, sleep, mood, and cognitive clarity. But the science of neuroplasticity is very clear. Your brain remains capable of change throughout your entire life, including in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. The question isn't, can I change? It's, what am I repeatedly training my brain to do, and how could I start training it in a different direction? Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new connections and strengthening or weakening existing ones. Think of your brain like a living city. Neural pathways are roads. The more you travel a road, like with a habit or a thought pattern, the wider, smoother, and faster it becomes. Roads you rarely use get overgrown. They're still there, but harder to travel. For a long time, scientists thought this road building mostly stopped after childhood, that the brain was set by your 20s. Well, decades of research have overturned that idea. We now know that adults, even in their 40s, 60s, and 80s, can form new neural connections when they learn new skills, change behaviors, or shift how they think about things. Physical exercise, mental challenge, mindfulness, social connection, quality sleep, and even deliberate gratitude and appreciation all measurably change brain structure and function in adults. Menopause itself is a time of brain reorganization, not just decline. After the transition, many women experience renewed clarity, creativity, and cognitive resilience, especially when they support their brain health. So yes, some things change with age: processing speed, hormone support, but plasticity remains. Your brain is still adapting right now based on what you repeatedly do, feel, and focus on. So if that's true, then why do unhelpful habits feel so hard to change? Well, part of the answer is efficiency. Your brain loves autopilot. Every time you repeat a habit, like scrolling late, saying yes when you mean no, going to sugar when you're stressed. You strengthen the pathway for that behavior. Over time, your brain adds insulation called myelin along those circuits, making signals travel faster and more automatically. Researchers and writers on neuroplasticity and habit often highlight three key points. First, your brain becomes very good at whatever you do repeatedly, whether or not it's good for you. Neuroplasticity is value neutral. Second, habits don't mean you're broken or fixed. They mean your brain has built strong pathways for certain responses. And third, changing a habit means both weakening old roads, using them less often, and building new ones, small, repeated alternative actions, until the new path becomes easier to travel. There's also an identity layer. When you've thought, I'm a procrastinator, or I'm just bad at exercise, or I never follow through, or I'm not very creative for years and years, those thoughts themselves become reinforced neural patterns. They actually shape your brain's predictions. This is who we are, this is what we do. So if you try to change behavior while holding the same identity story, your brain treats the new behavior as an exception, not a new norm. It resists to preserve its learned model of you. Neuroplasticity research supports the idea that pairing behavior change with identity shifts, like I'm becoming someone who is creative, follows through, is active, actually helps the brain adopt new patterns more easily. Neuroplasticity isn't just about what you do. It's also about how you think and where your focus regularly goes. Studies and reviews show that repeated negative thinking and chronic stress raise cortisol, which over time can shrink the hippocampus, which is involved in memory and emotional balance, and reduce efficiency in the prefrontal cortex, which is your planning, focus, and regulation. Positive constructive focus, not fake positivity, but deliberately noticing progress, learning, and good moments, strengthens neural pathways tied to motivation, emotional regulation, and resilience. And gratitude and conscious appreciation practices literally change brain activity, increasing activation in regions like the medial prefrontal cortex and anterior cingulate, involved in emotion regulation, empathy, and decision making. These brain changes can still be seen months after regular practice. Mindfulness and focused attention practices can reduce stress signals. They support hippocampal health and enhance connectivity in networks related to attention and self-regulation. In short, where your attention goes, your brain grows. Your self-talk and habitual focus are not just background noise. They're part of how your brain rewires itself, especially in midlife. This is both sobering and hopeful. If you spent years rehearsing, I can't, I'm behind, it's too late, that's just how I am, that has shaped your brain. But the same plasticity that built those patterns can build new ones, starting from where you are today, right now. So let's talk about practical ways to work with neuroplasticity without turning it into yet another perfection project. Practice number 1, tiny habit, big signal. Research and clinical wisdom agree. Small, consistent changes are more effective for rewiring than huge, unsustainable efforts. So pick one microhabit that supports your brain and body and is almost unnoticeably small. For example, one short walk around the block after dinner, one glass of water first thing in the morning, 3 minutes of stretching while the coffee brews, or writing one sentence or intention in a journal each night or first thing in the morning, or a 60-second body movement reset first thing in the morning, or even just once a day. For the 60-second reset, choose something very simple, such as marching in place and letting the opposite hand touch the opposite knee, or slowly rolling your shoulders up, back, and down a few times, or standing and swaying side to side, feeling your feet on the floor. Or while standing, if comfortable, move up and down on the balls of your feet, moving in place or around as you gently breathe in and out to wake up your body. Really shake it out. If you're giving your midlife brain and nervous system a brief, consistent message of we move, we circulate, we're not stuck, this supports blood flow, mood, and the brain chemicals involved in neuroplasticity, especially BDNF, known as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that acts like fertilizer for your brain cells and helps them stay healthy and form new connections. Over time, even tiny movement pulses help your system remember that change is possible and safe, not just exhausting. So then you want to anchor your chosen habit to something you already do. This is called habit stacking. So maybe it's after brushing your teeth, after your first cup of coffee, after getting dressed, after using the restroom, or after plugging in your phone. Or when you go to reach for your phone, do one of these things first before you pick it up. Treat every repetition as evidence of a new identity. I'm becoming someone who moves her body every day. Or I'm a woman who takes 3 minutes for herself no matter what. Or I'm someone whose brain can change. Keep it intentionally small so your nervous system doesn't rebel. You can always increase later. Each repetition, including that 60-second body movement, is a vote for a new neural pathway and a small embodied reminder that you are not stuck. Consistency matters more than intensity. Movement is one of the most powerful, well-studied drivers of neuroplasticity across age. It doesn't have to be extreme. When you move your body, especially with regular moderate activity, your brain gets more blood flow and releases growth support chemicals like BDNF to really help your brain cells stay healthy, make new connections, and stay more adaptable as your life and roles change in midlife. And if actual movement isn't possible for you for whatever health reasons, remember what we talked about in imagination. And try just simply using your imagination to imagine yourself doing these things as an alternative. Practice number 2, one-line self-talk upgrade. Because thoughts and self-talk repeatedly activate certain circuits, you can use them consciously to support plasticity. So pick one helpful default thought. Maybe it's, I'll never change, I'm terrible at this, or I always mess it up, or I make poor choices, or I'm broken. Gently replace it with a truer, kinder alternative your brain can accept, such as, change is hard, but my brain is capable of learning and doing new things. Or, I'm practicing this, and practice takes time and changes my brain. Or, I've done hard things before. This is just another one I'm learning. Or, learning from my choices gives me information to choose differently next time. And then there's I'm broken. Try I'm not broken. I'm finding new ways of being in the world that better align with who I am now. And every time you hear the old thought, don't fight it. Add the new line right after. There's I'll never change again. And also, my brain is still plastic and every small repetition counts. You're not trying to instantly believe a new story. You're giving your brain a new road to start paving. Practice number 3, daily progress noticing. Because your midlife brain is wired to scan for threats and problems, you can use neuroplasticity to train it to notice progress and possibility too. Once a day, ask yourself, where did I move 1% closer to the woman I want to be now? It could be saying no as a complete sentence. It could be going to bed 15 minutes earlier. It could be speaking up about something instead of normally staying silent. And it could be taking a walk instead of scrolling. Write down one small win. Over time, this repeated focus strengthens circuits associated with motivation and emotional strength. Practice number 4, gratitude with a twist. This is for your future brain. We've talked about gratitude and appreciation in other episodes, so here's a neuroplastic twist. Once a day, over the course of a week or more, write down one present moment gratitude, and then one future-oriented gratitude, something you appreciate about the woman you're becoming. For example, in the present, I'm grateful my body carried me through another long day. Future, I'm grateful that my brain is capable of learning this new boundary or skill, even if it feels clumsy right now. Research shows gratitude practices activate and strengthen brain regions involved in authentic, positive emotion and regulation, with effects that can last months. By including future-oriented gratitude and appreciation, you're rehearsing a brain that expects growth, not just decline. If the word gratitude feels like pressure or doesn't quite fit your lived experience, you can use appreciation instead. The structure is the same. One present moment appreciation and one future-oriented appreciation. For example, in the present, I appreciate that my nervous system kept going today, even under stress. In the future, I appreciate that I'm learning to notice my patterns sooner and respond more kindly to myself. Appreciation can sometimes feel a bit gentler and more accessible, less like I should be grateful, and more like I'm genuinely noticing what is supporting me. The same neuroplastic principles apply. You're repeatedly activating circuits linked with regulation, perspective, and resilience, and teaching your midlife brain to notice both what is working now and what is quietly growing in you. So let's ground this with a few brief scenarios. Example A, the woman who always stayed late. For years, a woman stayed at work late every day, finishing tasks and supporting others, often at the expense of her own rest. Her identity was the reliable one. Her brain's habit loop was work day ends, I stay longer, equals exhaustion, and repeat. She decided as an experiment to leave on time one day a week and take a 10-minute walk or quiet moment before going home instead. The first few weeks, her brain screamed, "You're lazy, you're going to fall behind. People will think you're not a hard worker." She practiced one new self-talk line. My well-being matters. I'm becoming someone who is sustainable, not sacrificial. My brain, my body, and the people I care about benefit from that. Over months, the guilt began to fade, and her evenings felt different. Her brain started to associate leaving on time with safety and restoration, not danger. That's neuroplasticity in action. New routines, new identity, new wiring. Example B, the night worrier. Another woman used to lie awake every night rehearsing worst-case scenarios about health, money, or family. Her nervous system treated bedtime like a threat drill. She didn't jump straight into an hour of meditation, sitting in a lotus position. She started with a 2-minute tomorrow rehearsal, imagining one part of the next day going 10% better. And a simple phrase, "Thank you, brain, for trying to protect me. Tonight we're practicing safety and peace." Over time, pairing breath with gentler images reduced her nighttime activation. Her brain learned that bed could also be associated with calmer rehearsals and rest. That's neuroplasticity too. Movement is one of the most powerful, well-sustained drivers of neuroplasticity across age, and it doesn't have to be extreme. When you move your body, especially with regular moderate activity, your brain gets more blood flow and releases growth support chemicals like the BDNF we mentioned before. BDNF is like a growth signal for your brain, an internal fertilizer that helps brain cells stay healthy, make new connections, and stay more adaptable as your life and roles change in midlife. Research on women's brain and heart health in midlife, like large longitudinal studies of women's aging, emphasizes that this season is a critical window where changes in habits can meaningfully influence cognitive outcomes later. Key messages from that research are that high blood sugar, increased belly fat, poor cardiovascular health, and chronic stress in midlife are linked with later cognitive decline. The research also showed that behavior changes in midlife, like more movement, better sleep patterns, stress reduction, healthier food choices, and cognitive engagement, can actually protect brain function and reduce this risk. Neuroplasticity is the mechanism that makes these behavior changes matter. Your brain is still rewiring in response to what you do. Midlife isn't too late, it's actually a prime time for rewiring because you have more life experience, more emotional intelligence, and often more clarity about what truly matters. Habits like regular movement, sleep support, and stress care aren't just good ideas. They're ways of feeding your brain the signals it needs, including BDNF, to keep adapting and protecting memory, mood, and resilience in this powerful season. So as you move into your week, you might sit with a few questions. If my brain is still plastic, what's one story about myself I'm ready to stop rehearsing? And what's one tiny habit that the future me would be grateful I started today, even if it's only 2 to 3 minutes long? And what if the phrase, "this is just who I am," is actually a description of old wiring, not a life sentence? You don't have to rebuild your entire brain overnight. You just have to start sending it clearer, kinder signals about who you're becoming now, no matter what your current mid-season age is. And if this conversation on neuroplasticity helped you feel a little more hopeful that your brain is not done with you yet, I'd love for you to keep walking with me here on Rooted Insights. Follow, like, and subscribe, and if it feels supportive, please share this episode with a mid-season friend who could benefit from these grounded, science-informed, and heart-centered conversations. And I'd love to hear from you. What's one habit or pattern you've been telling yourself is just who I am? And what's one tiny experiment you're willing to try this week to nudge your brain in a new direction? Share in the comments below. Your experiment might be exactly what another woman needs to remember that her brain and her life are more changeable than she's been led to believe. Remember, you're not behind, you're in a new season of your life, and your brain is still learning from you every single day. You're allowed to teach it something new. We're here rooting in together, one thought, one tiny habit, one new neural path at a time. Until next time on Rooted Insights.